There's a lot of people who feel very apocalyptic these days, right? They feel like it's the end of the world. There's a lot of end of the world movies coming out, right? People have seen that. Well, you know, I don't feel like we're in the apocalypse, but I can understand why people might feel that way. I don't know if folks are familiar with the Marxist narrative of world history, but it goes like this, basically. You know, for most of human civilization, we were hunter-gatherers. We were in the woods, hunting and gathering. But then with our creativity and our brilliance, we got too good at hunting and gathering, right? We developed spears so we could hunt those animals very effectively. We were paying attention to the patterns and how berries were growing and fruits, and we knew how to gather very effectively. So with our brilliance, we got too good at hunting and gathering. And there was a scarcity. The animals were dying off. We weren't hunting them. The berries and all of that weren't growing. And there was a scarcity, and it was a crisis, and people started starving to death. It was a crisis, and the only way it could be resolved was with the first social revolution. When we started farming, domesticating animals and growing crops, right? That was the first social revolution that resolved the first big civilization crisis. Fast forward a few thousand years, right? The Silk Road from Asia and the invention of the printing press and other great, brilliant, human creative inventions made us too good at subsistence farming. We were too good at subsistence farming. And there came a time that people were starving and there was a political crisis, and then we had the second great social revolution. We overturned feudalism and we got the capitalist world. And the problem that we're in today is that we've gotten too good at capitalism, right? They don't even need assembly line workers anymore. We have developed computers and artificial intelligence and 3D printers, and the global assembly line is empty of workers, and the global market is glutted with products that cannot be sold. We are in the greatest civilization crisis in the history of humanity right now because we have developed the mechanisms to build a beautiful, prosperous world. But the only way we can do that is if the major banks and factories and centers of economic power come under public control and are no longer operated to make a profit for a small group of billionaires and bankers. We need to have control over the economy. The means of production, to use Marxist terminology, must be controlled by the people. And until we get to that point, this civilization crisis that we're in, with people fleeing from developing countries, with wages dropping, with opioids, with war, it's only going to escalate until we can resolve this continuing civilization crisis, until we can have popular power control the economy. But I want to back up even further. Because, you know, I talked about human creativity making feudalism no longer sustainable. Well, that really began because throughout the Dark Ages, there was a feeling that human beings were animals. Serfs existed to serve the nobles, right? Commoners existed to serve the king. People were property, people were chattel, and those who ruled above them had no obligation to them. But human history started to advance, and we got to see some great advances in human history. We got, you know, Johannes Kepler and Bach and Leonardo da Vinci. We got all of that when there was a change in consciousness. The Renaissance was created when there was a change in understanding about how the government should operate. And the feeling was this, that not only did people have to serve those above them, but the government, the rulers, had an obligation to serve the people, right? Populism, that's what populism is. They tell you populism is a bad word. That's what populism is, the notion that the government should serve the people. And that had a lot to do with the founding of this country. What are the first words of the preamble of the U.S. Constitution? We the people. And who is it who pays the taxes that pay for all their ugly wars while our country crumbles? We the people. And who is it who goes and does all the work of this country? We the people. And who is it who goes out and suffers as they continue to gut the place with their trade deals? Who is it? It's we the people. Well, it's about time we had a government of action that fought on behalf of we the people against the billionaires and the bankers. And I want to just quickly close with this. I like to talk about Superman. I like to talk about superheroes, but please don't get me wrong. The notion that there's going to be some superhuman flying from another country that's just going to come save us all is not what I want you to get out of my presentation tonight. That is not the message. We need millions of people in the United States to start talking about these ideas and to start getting involved in the political process. I could say I think we need millions of supermen and superwomen if we're going to get out of this crisis.